Okay, hi everyone, welcome to a brand new tutorial. So this tutorial is specifically following the PyQt5 GUI library for Python, and we're going to learn how to make a login and a sign up form. So what you can see right here on my screen is the login form that we're going to make just in a minute. And this is basically what we have. So we have somewhere to type a username, we have somewhere for the password, so we can type a bunch of letters that won't even show. We can choose to log in. If we do not have an account, we have a button that will take us to a sign up form. And what we're going to do is that we're going to learn how to build these two different forms and how to sort of navigate between them. Now, one thing to note is that this tutorial is for complete beginners. So if you are completely unaware of PyQt5, then that's completely okay because you will learn everything that you need to learn in this video. So alright, without further ado, let's just get started and I'll start in a minute. Okay, so starting here, this is an empty PyCharm project. Now, you don't need to know much about PyCharm to be able to complete this video because mainly PyCharm is just an IDE for Python, but you can use virtually any text editor that you usually use for Python coding. Alright, so whatever you're comfortable with, this is definitely just a personal choice. Now, with regards to actually installing PyQt5 as well as PyQt5 Designer, we'll get to what that is in a minute. I have a video done specifically for that purpose. Now the video is 3 or 4 minutes long, I believe, so I do feel it's best to watch that first. So just take a break, go watch that 3 to 4 minutes, just so you can be able to install PyQt5 and then we can get started. Alright, so when you install PyQt5 and PyQt5 Designer, according to that video, you're shown how exactly to launch Designer. Now to launch Designer, you would just simply go to your search and just Designer, and you would run this command and you'd wait for Designer to launch. Now you can obviously close this. Alright, so this is what Designer looks like as soon as you open it. This is where we're going to create our forms using a sort of drag and drop type of software instead of having to code the position of every single button. Alright, so how do we create our first GUI? So let's just say dialog without buttons and we say create. So this is what we have initially, so let's just move it here. Let's just sort of change it. I'm actually going to specify the width and the height. So here, right here, if you can see where I'm pointing with my mouse, this is where you would specify the width and the height of your dialog. Now, I know this looks scary. There are so many different buttons, different numbers. Don't worry, just ignore everything. Everything that's important I will cover in this video. And there are some things that you can actually just ignore, at least while you're still a beginner to intermediate person. Alright, so I'm just going to specify the width to be 480 pixels and then the height to be 620, which is, I think, appropriate for a login form. Alright, so let's just save this right here. So we're going to name it login.ui. Alright, so .ui is the format for PyQt5 UI files, and this is what we're basically going to be using. So this is our form so far. Not too exciting, I know. But then let's just start designing. So the first thing we'd want to do right now is probably change the background. So you can, let me just actually walk you through it. You can right click here on the background and choose change style sheet. Now I'm not sure if you're familiar completely with CSS. You really do not need to be. So you do just have to know a few different things such as background color, font size, just so you can actually personalize your form. But if you do not want to do that, you can definitely stick to the colors and default fonts and sizes that PyQt5 provides. But let's just change a background color. So like I said, you would right click here and choose change style sheet. Then you would go here where it says add color and you would choose background color. Now, what do you want your background color to be? Now, I do have a nice suggestion, and that would be the hex number 363636, which is the sort of dark mode grayish black that most applications sort of use these days. And this is what we have. So this is basically our GUI for now. Now these dots will obviously not exist in the form itself. If you want to see how the form would look like without the different dots and sort of grids that you have, you would just go to form and click preview. And then you would see sort of a preview of the GUI that you have. So this is comparing what your app will actually look like versus how it looks like when you're sort of editing this GUI. Alright, now let's just start by adding a title. Now here we have a bunch of different widgets and things that you can add to your application. Now you don't need to be familiar with all of these. I suggest a good starting point being buttons, text fields, and labels. So let's just talk about each one and what it is as we go. So labels. So I'm searching here, I chose a label. A label is basically some text written on the screen that isn't really interactive, you could say. So it's just some text in a certain place. So rather than have somewhere where your user can type, this is something that you select as soon as you start. So let's just say login. Alright, now obviously this is tiny, this is black, it does not look good, which is why we're going to change the style sheet. So going again, change style sheet, and we want to change the color. So we specify the color to be, and we add a color. So let's say white, but not completely white, so it can kind of offset the color that we have. If you choose apply, you can see the color change right here. Now obviously we also have to change the font. So font size, and we can just say 28 is okay, and then we can apply. And I know this seems weird, but you just stretch it out and put it in the center as you can, really. And there you go. So this is now you have a title. Now I know what you're thinking. Maybe if you don't know CSS, you're a bit intimidated by it, then don't worry. Like I said, you only need to know background color, font size, and font color. That's pretty much enough to get you going, at least for the first part. I can make a different video on actually styling PyQt5 different sort of widgets, and maybe that would be more in-depth about the CSS components that go into styling PyQt5. So let me know down in the comments if you're interested in that sort of video. So I don't want to make it if no one's interested. So let me know, and if you are, I'll definitely get on it. Alright, so this is what we have so far. We have a title. Now obviously we need some fields where we're going to input the username and the password, and then just sort of confirm or log in. So let's just go back here, and let's put another label actually. So let's put a label for username or email. You can call this email actually. So email is good. And we can also style it, so we can change the style sheet. So let's say font size, and we can have a font size of 15. Let's just apply. Yeah, it seems reasonable. And a color of, let's just add a color. I can choose this sort of magenta right here because these colors kind of match my channel. Close enough. It's not the exact magenta I have on my channel. So here we go. And now I have a email label. Now what do I mean by this email label? I'm sort of specifying what would go next in the field that I'm going to put. So then we're also going to search here, or we can scroll actually, just get to know things, where we have input widgets. So input is where the user is going to be inputting stuff. So line edit is basically what we want right now. Now, does this look like what you want? It probably is. So this is where we're going to allow the user to type their email. So we can put this here, we can move email just slightly upwards, and everything else is sort of changing things around. Alright, so this is what you have, and you can even make it bigger, smaller like this, or maybe just smaller like that, or wider. This is all up to you. This is a design choice at the end of the day. Now let's just preview things. So let's go form, preview again. So this is what it would look like to your user. This is what your user would see. So here I can type an email, so dummymail@mail.com. So we can make this font bigger actually and a different color. So same thing, we can change the style sheet, we can change the font size, and we can make it perhaps 14. And then the color, we can make it white or this sort of grayish creamy white that we have going right now. And then we can apply. Alright, so now if we go and we preview, now we can type things like dummymail@mail, and that seems pretty legit. So this is much more appealing. Alright, so now that we have an email field, you can actually just copy paste these. So copy and paste, and then you would drag this and you'd place it in a strategic location, and you would write password right here. Now, why did this? Okay, that was password. So I had clicked on the wrong thing. So this is the password. We can actually even separate these even further, so you can use your arrow buttons for more accurate movements on the grid of the GUI. So that's basically what we have now. Now, how are we going to actually, let me just preview. How are we going to actually make the password hide the characters with those little password dots that you're used to? Well, we're gonna cover that in a minute, so no problem, and we'll do that from the code itself and not through the GUI design. Alright, okay, so we have the fields. Now we just need a button to sort of confirm that we are logging in. So if we just search here, or you can type in the search bar, button, so you choose a push button, and you would set it probably here at the corner. Now, obviously the color isn't amazing, so let's also change the style sheet. We can change the background color and make it, let's say A7, A8, A7, and we apply, so this seems like an okay color. And the font, we can increase it, so font size, and we can make it 14. And if we apply, and we can just make the button larger. Now this is way too bulky, so I mean, whatever you want. Alright, so we can put this here. So this is the sort of login form that we have. Let's just preview it. And it's pretty solid. You can even change the font color here, so you can change the color to something else if the black is a bit off-putting, but I mean, this isn't really a taste sort of tutorial. Alright, so that's what we have right now. Now, what are we going to do next? So we sort of designed the form for the login part. There's also the sign up part that we're going to design, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's first explore some code rather than just keep on designing using Designer. So let's go to PyCharm. So this is PyCharm. I now have a login.ui file right here, so within my project, because that's where I saved it. Now, if I just create a new file, so a new Python file, let's just name this main.py, okay, main.py. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is that we're actually going to perform some imports. So import sys. We're going to need sys, which is the system folder for Python, because we want to be able to launch an application with it. Then we're going to say from PyQt5 import it's actually QtWidgets. I'm brainless these days. Alright, then we're going to say from PyQt5.QtWidgets import QDialog and QApplication. Alright, now you can actually use the IDE to import these, but I like to get them out of the way, so it's a personal preference. Now this load UI file is what's going to actually connect your application to these GUIs. Alright, so now that we have the imports out of the way, we can actually begin. So let's create a class. So you need some Python object-oriented programming in this case, because you need to be able to treat the different sort of dialogues as a class. So class login QDialog, meaning this login object right here is descended from QDialog. Then we're just going to specify a default constructor, and we're just going to say that this is from just setting things up. Alright, and now we can actually start. So I want my login object to load the UI as soon as I launch it. So when I create one, it would load a UI called login.ui. And this function right here is the function that will actually open up the screen. So this thing that I just designed, this thing that I just designed right here, this will be what is loaded when I call this load UI function. Alright? Now, let's actually just understand what's going on. So we have these things, but we need a way to be able to reference these fields to get the text from them, and reference the button to check that it's clicked. Let's just name them. So I want this field to be called email. I want this field to be called password. And I want this field to be called, I just realized I kept this as push button, so I'll just call it login. And I want this field to be called login button. Alright? why am I naming them? Because I need a way to refer to them from the Python code. Now, because I've already loaded the UI, here's what I can do next. I can simply just say self.login button, meaning I'm referring to login button as if it's a attribute for this class. So by loading the UI, all the different objects within that UI are now attributes for this class. So self.login button dot click dot connect. Now, what does this function mean? Here I'm saying that when this login button is clicked, then take me to this function, connect me to it, and this function is going to be called login function. All right. So what does login function do? So it's a function. That means I have to actually create it, login function, and it needs to take self as an argument. Alright, so this is the function that's gonna happen whenever I create the button. So basically, when this button is created, what happens then? What happens then is that I actually want to log in. Now in this tutorial, I'm not actually performing any logging in because that actually involves connecting to a database or authentication system. You will see that in the next part of this tutorial. So this part is completely centered around the graphical user interface part of building the PyQt5 form, and then the second part will actually be applying a Firebase authentication to this form. I separated them like this because just in case someone is not really interested in Firebase, they can just follow this video and ignore the other one. Alright, so let's just ignore that for now. So what am I going to do here? I'm just going to say email is equal to email self.email.text. So what I'm saying here is that I want to take the text from the email field. So from this field right here, I want to take whatever is written here inside and I want to put that in a variable in Python code. And I'm going to do the same for password. I'm going to say self.password.text. And now, because I'm not doing any logging in, I'm just going to print a function. So I'm just going to say successfully logged in with email, and then I'm just gonna concatenate the email that we just took and password and concatenate the password. Alright, so that's basically it for sort of determining the dynamics of this class for now. Now, how do we actually launch this application? So exiting the class, going back to our main actually, so we're just going to create an app. So an app is a Q application that takes into account as an argument sys.rb. Alright? Then what we're going to do is that the last part is going to be app.execute. And the function looks like this. Alright, so don't just worry yourself too much about this because if it seems confusing, there is no problem. Then you want to create a main window or any sort of variable name and create a login instance. So an instance of the login class. And then you want to add that to a Q stacked widget. Now I'll explain what that is in a minute, but let's just create widget and we say it's equal to QtWidgets dot Q stacked widget. So what the stacked widget is that it's mainly a stack of different dialogues. So you know when you're on an application, you want to switch between these different screens. To do so in PyQt5, you put all of them in a stack, and then you would flip by this stack by incrementing the index and changing this screen. And you'll see it more in action when I actually attempt to jump between the login screen and the create account screen. So let's just say it's a Q stacked widget, and it contains, we have to add widget.add widget main main window. And the last thing you want to do is you want widget.show. One other thing that you can do is that you can widget.set fixed width, and we said it was 480, and widget.set fixed height, and it was, we said 620. So I'm just doing this so that we do not allow the user to change the sort of size of the widget. Let's just actually run it. So let's run. Alright, and this is the form that we have, and we managed to run it from the Python application. So this is what we have. This is the code that we just made. Let me just minimize this, and this is our running application. So we can create a fake email at email.com, and then you can also use the tab key to actually move between these fields, which I think is really cool that it's already built in. And then you can create a password and just call the password. Now we haven't actually done the thing where we hide the password yet, but we'll do it in a minute. So now if you press login, you go back here, and it wrote, I actually pressed it twice, I think. So if you press it another time, yeah, so it would print successfully logged in with email, fake email at email.com, and password is password. So this is sort of, we just did the first of our forms. Alright, so one more thing that we want to do, that we want to actually change the way the password is shown. So we say the following: self.password.set echo mode. Then we say QtWidgets.QLineEdit.password. Alright, that's basically it. Let's just run it again and make sure that this works. So let's just type some stuff, and here we go. We have the dots in the password. So that's pretty much it. Now you actually know what we have for the login part. We just created the form, we created the email part, we were able to get the text from the email field, get the password, hide the password, and when we press login, we would print a statement. Now what we want to do is we want to be able to jump from this screen to a create account screen when we have a new user. So let's just go back quick to the designer and add some new functionality. So what I'm going to do, let me just move this, and what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna get a label, and I'm gonna type the following: don't have an account, and just stretch this out so you can see the whole phrase, and fix this capital O right here. Alright, so we can also change the font color so we can actually see it, and we're gonna choose white, and I'm just gonna save this as color, and we can apply. Alright, so what we need here is another button, and that button is supposed to sort of take us to the other screen. So let's just create a push button and actually just say create account, not click here. And we can also just reformat this. So let's just change the font, the color I mean, for the font, and let's just add a color and just go with white. Apply this, and let's keep the actual button color as is. So let's just, alright. Okay, so now that we have this sort of laid out, let's just name the button like we usually do. So we name the button to be create ack, and basically this is the form that we have. So if we go back here, we run it, it should look pretty much the same. So we have a button now, but we don't have any commands as to what happens when we click this button. So let's actually fix this, and we have to create another form. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to File, Save As, and create the sort of same idea with this by saying create ack.ui. So now I have sort of two identical, let me just open the other one, keep them side by side. So I have sort of two identical different forms. What I want to do is I want to make this one into a sign up form, which is mainly for creating a new account. So moving this. Alright, so obviously I don't need this part right here. I can just delete it, and I can just rename this to sign up. Now, if you want a nice touch, it would be nice to just have a second one of these and just move it where you need it to be. Mainly because usually we have a sort of confirm password thing. So confirm pass, let's call it. Now, why does this type here? Alright, so confirm pass. And just stretch this. You can even make these smaller. They don't have to be consistent among the forms. So just make these smaller. And just make this larger. Okay, so now this is what you basically have. Now let's just rename this button to sign up button. And now this is still email because we sort of duplicated it from the first form. And then here we can say this is confirm path. And like we said, we like to name our different elements of our GUI so that we can access them through the code. So now we're just gonna do pretty much the same thing. So let's just have a few lines here, and we're gonna create a new class. So this class is going to be the create act class, and it's also going to be a QtDialog. We also need a constructor function. We need a super create act self, and then we initialize, then we load UI, create what we name it, create act.ui self. Alright, and in that case we named the button. So what did we name the button actually? Sign up button. So let's go back, self.signup.button.clicked.connect, and we just self dot, we have to give it a function name, so create act function. Alright, so same thing that we just did. Then we create a new function called create act function. So if you're not keeping up, it's essentially the same thing that we did in the first part. So for now, it's all the exact same. And what we're gonna do, we're also gonna take the following. So email is going to take email.self.email.text. So from the text field, which is the email, so this one. Then we're going to check whether these two passwords are the same. So let's just have an if statement right here. So if self.password.text is equal to self.confirmPass.text, this is text, then you would say password is equal to self.password.text, and then you would have this print statement. So like I said in the part 2 of this video, created act with email. So in a part 2 of this video, I would have a sort of actual authentication, word and password. Alright, so for now, this is exactly what we have. Now here's one minor problem. You can't really get there. So if we run this again, so we have the login part, we have this button, but we haven't really specified something for this button, so you really can't go to the other thing. So here's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna add a line here. Alright, so we're gonna say self dot, what did we name that button? Dot create act, or let's say create act button, just so we can differentiate between different things here and not actually mess anything up. So create act button dot clicked dot connect self dot go to create. And now we have to create another function within this class. So def go to create self, yes. And what we need to do here is that we need to initialize a new create act instance, and we're gonna add that to our stacked widget. So widget dot add widget create act, and now we've added to the stack widget. We need to actually move an index in the stacked widget. Widget dot set current index to widget dot current index plus 1. So we're incrementing the index to actually move forward in the stack, and now I believe we can actually do it. So if we click here, create account, now we have the other form, and we can type a new email at email. We can have a password which is hi. I also did not put a hi, and then sign up. Since they're equal, we get the actual printed out thing, and so we have successfully created act with email. Now to actually hide the password, you just have to do the exact same thing that we did here. So I'm just going to copy it, and we have one for password and have one for confirm pass. Now a nice touch would be to actually, after printing that you successfully created an email, you actually want to go back to the login screen. So just say login is a login instance, and then widget.addWidget login, and then widget.setCurrentIndex widget.currentIndex +1. And now you can be able to actually go back after you're done creating an account. So let's just create account, sign up, and then we say email, let's email, whatever. Then you say password, and then we confirm the password, and then we sign up. So it prints the thing and takes us back to the login screen where we can continue to log in with the same credentials we just created. So thank you very much for watching. Thank you for staying until here, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful and beneficial for whatever application you plan on making with Python and PyQt5. So leave a like and a comment if it really was useful. And thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for the next one, and bye bye.